You haven't had any contact with Freely or Durianrider of any kind.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, you're quite, the answer is more interesting than I think. To me, that's a very positive message to share with people. Say, look, the goals of veganism can be accomplished, and it's going to be through a cyclical change in both the culture and the politics, broadly similar in this sense to how cigarette smoking has changed within the last 50 years, last 100 years. Yeah.
I would absolutely have to agree. It would just kind of see, for me, it kind of seems like there's patterns in history as a way of repeating itself, and you can literally see this is exactly what happened with the smoking. They said it was healthy, and it's literally going to go through the same process. Hopefully, it's a lot faster. And like you said, I heard you talking about gay rights and rights of all kinds, and how there's points where there's a cycle you have to go through, and you can really see it being applied to veganism as a whole.
I think, well, you guys, we're all from Southern Ontario here, I mean, originally. But, I mean, I think the gay rights example is interesting. Obviously, each of these is similar to veganism in some ways and different in some ways. But with gay rights in Toronto, really the foundation for the success of gay rights was gay people having restaurants and nightclubs in a neighborhood and being a community and also being part of the larger community. Where, after a certain point, I mean, in my grandfather's time, nobody knew any gay people because everyone was in the closet. It was very rare to know an open homosexual. So in that sense, they were invisible. They weren't really part of the community. And in a sense, I mean, I'm not being flippant. There are vegans who are in the closet. There are vegans who are not politically active. They just don't eat meat and they don't talk about it with their coworkers and nobody knows who they are. It's a big difference. There's a big difference between being gay and all your coworkers think you're straight and being open. But there's a huge difference between gays being an invisible part of society and gays having a neighborhood with, again, lawyers' offices and political foundations, yes, but also restaurants and nightclubs and hotels, even though there's no such thing as gay food. There's no gay cuisine, So, I mean, vegans, I see all these things as making a positive contribution. I do think that opening a restaurant can be a significant political act. It's not just business. And, obviously the other questions of actually having foundations and organization and so on. So, yeah, each of these comparisons, there are different elements we can learn from. But if there's one thing that comes to you, look, going on vacation is great. Go on vacation for 2 weeks. Go on vacation for 2 months if you really need to. Do not go on vacation for 2 years. Do not go on vacation for the rest of your life. Vacation is not going to address these problems. And gay people did not raise their social status by promoting the lifestyle. They didn't. I mean, you can imagine, apparently, what if gay people had pursued gay rights by doing, what we now call lifestyle activism and veganism, by just trying to make being gay seem glamorous and enticing and wonderful? No. There was a real political process, a real process of cultural change, and also this business of building institutions and businesses and neighborhoods. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's very interesting to hear. It's very interesting to hear you talk about culture change and just I don't know. I don't get to talk to anybody that actually knows the process on how to change culture like this, and you can see the steps of it. So this is very interesting to hear.
Well, I just say one second thing on that. So my background, I've dealt a lot with extreme politics and left-wing politics, and that was really one of the failures of communism. So communism was a political movement, but they really wanted to achieve cultural change, and that included the Cultural Revolution. Cultural Revolution was something that happened in China, and actually there was also a Cultural Revolution in Russia earlier. So in some ways, my interest in this comes out of an awareness of failures in history, when people have tried to say, look, we've got to transform our culture. And of course, in some ways they did, even though communism killed millions of people, and it's bad. I'm not a pro-communist. I recognize if you were alive at that time, you'd have a whole list of things in the culture you want to change, including, equal rights for women, things that we would sympathize with. So the question of how does culture really change, and how can we make it happen in a Western democratic society, and how can we make it happen anywhere, killing the absolute minimum number of people? I'd like to kill 0 people and achieve this change. I don't want a violent revolution, and I never even joke about that. A lot of vegans want to hang tough and pretend that. I don't support, putting on a mask or any kind of terrorism or what have you. I think those are the thoughts needed. And as it happens with my background, yeah, I'm one of the few people who's really kind of committed to and engaged with those issues. Great. Well, you guys want to talk about my sex life now or what? I mean, come on.
No, almost there. Almost there. So it's safe to say at this point that you haven't had any contact with Freely or Durianrider of any kind.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, the answer is more interesting than I think. One of the misconceptions, some people claim falsely that I took private messages and made them public. All of my communication with Durianrider were in publicly stated messages. And I have no idea why he did that. And you can actually see, if you just watch the video, I have the 3-minute video that shows our interactions. If you're just familiar with Facebook, you can see that. And one of the first ones, there were some other people commenting. So you can see those were not private messages sent to me, and those were not private emails. For whatever reason, he never wrote to me privately. He never wrote to me by email or Facebook message. He only made statements in public forums where other people would see them. So that's fine. That's his decision. But I have not. Some people have accused me of disclosing private correspondence. It's not the case. So actually, that was all in an open Facebook forum. Every stage of that controversy. But they have. I mean, after we stopped talking, because I've posted all the correspondence we had is posted, except for one final statement where Durianrider said, "So sue me." I've just mentioned that you made a one sentence remark that I actually didn't include in the video. At the very end, he said, "Okay, I'll sue you." All right, that's how you really feel. Okay.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, well, yeah, his other challenges were accepted too. Okay, you want to meet me? Let's meet. Okay, whether you want to have a philosophical discussion, we can do that. You want to go toe to toe, we can do that too. But yeah, I basically don't get it. I mean, sorry. Why don't you guys ask? What's your next question? Let's take this where you want to say.
I was gonna say, so since he said so sue me, there's been nothing.
Well, he's made public statements. What I found also offensive, so and when he stopped threatening me directly. He kept making public threats against me, like on his Tumblr and on Facebook and in YouTube comments, but those were not sent to me. But I mean, one of the other things I found kind of shockingly cowardly was he started insulting and threatening Jake Eames. Now, Jake Eames is actually quite an athletic guy, but I mean, we have a video of him and I sitting next to each other. He is much smaller than I am. So I also found that cowardly. It's like, well, look, Durianrider, you threatened me with violence. And you guys have read my reply. I don't prefer violence. I'd prefer to handle this philosophically. But if that's what it's got to be, okay, come meet me. All right, let's do it. And I don't even care. I don't need to win the fight. I don't care if I get beat up because, as I said, I'm not getting any prettier at this age. I don't care if I lose some teeth or go to jail or whatever. So I was not a coward about that. But then Durianrider was a coward. And not only did he completely back down from that, and he started lying, claiming that I was trying to beat him up, which was never true. He's 100% of the faults, but he started threatening to beat up Jake Eames. And the only reason for that is because Jake Eames is physically smaller than me. And, Jake Eames had no conflict with Durianrider. There was no justification for that whatsoever. So that's cowardly and dishonest. And so you ask, did he continue writing to me? No, he didn't. He's been 100% duplicitous and dishonest. And, for instance, also another details, but he started saying to Jake Eames, why doesn't Jake Eames come so Durianrider can beat Jake up? Jeez, really low. And beyond that, very recently, after he knew when I left Chiang Mai, because again, I actually have a job, I have other commitments, he started saying that I was a coward because I didn't come to meet him in Chiang Mai then. I was like, wow. So now you want to lie to people and claim that I'm afraid to meet you because you refused to meet me while I was in town, and then after I've left town, you lie and claim, It is the lowest of the low. This would be despicable even for Justin Bieber. This would be despicable for the lead singer of the Rolling Stones. Like, in our society, we're very permissive towards rock stars, rappers, musicians. Anyone who did this, I don't care if you're a gangster rapper, I don't care if you're a rock and roll star, this is beneath contempt. This is just despicable.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that he also did threaten by message Vegan Mojo and his brother with his carved up squad or something. I'm not sure the exact details, but I do remember seeing that somewhere for sure.
Nobody can make a complete list of how many people he's threatened. This guy has made threats against everybody. But in my case, it was just clear cut because I was there and I didn't back down, and we all saw exactly what happened. But no, he's made threats against such a list of people, and some people have written and telling me about times when he made threats against teenage females and stuff. It's really despicable stuff.
All right, so moving on here, I just want to say this. So who is Julie Bloor?
I'm not really going to ask about that. I have one video. It's a long video, but it's I think enjoyable and interesting. That's called Real Politics Fake Diet. And that was posted before I came to Chiang Mai. That was posted before the accusations. That includes the complete correspondence I had with Julia Bohr. And so every email I sent to her and every email she sent to me, the emails I sent to her are like 2 sentences long. They're nothing. And she wrote back to me this long, attack on my character, which I just found hilarious. So you can watch that video and see what I have to say. That video also talks about why my channel exists and who I am, what I'm about. So I think
I'll make sure to put that in the link. In the description.
Okay, sure, but let me just say that Real Politics Fake Diet, it's a good video. And I mean, who is she? Look, she's a troubled kid. I don't have any hate for her in my heart. I regard her as a victim of this whole situation. You guys know I have a long interview with Leah Pramstaller, and she's an example of someone. Her life will really be seriously impacted forever because she became a cult member. She became a believer in Rotel 4 and Durianrider. She dropped out of high school. She moved to Chiang Mai. She stayed in Chiang Mai for a year. She gained a lot of weight. Her life was transformed in a huge way. And she was a few years older than Julia. But I mean, a lot of people, including fans of my channel, write to Julia just trying to help her because, they see this troubled kid who's made some bad choices in her life, and she's now playing a bunch of games she doesn't really understand herself. But I mean, her allegations against me, nobody takes them seriously. It's the most kind of laughable, fantasy that she's engaged in. And again, exactly what got said in that email correspondence everyone could see. So anyway, look, I wish her the best of luck. I mean, I just want to say this. Even with the vegans who hate me, I actually got love for them. Even if you hate me, if you're vegan and you're sincere, I feel like you've got all the pieces to the puzzle set out on the table in front of you. You're putting them together the wrong way, but life is long. And with somebody like Julia Bohr, any of these people who hate me, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, I hope you put the pieces of the puzzle together the right way and you recognize what's really necessary in terms of cooperation, tolerance. Tolerance is very important, and positive political action, getting organized to make a difference. But the intolerant, I mean, she is definitely an example of someone who's intolerant. It seems to me that the whole point of veganism for some people is to say, I'm right, you're wrong. And no matter how small the difference is, now I'm going to hate you and disparage you and condemn you and maybe even call you a pedophile and defame you. There's no limit over some pretty minor difference. And the alternative to that is tolerance. I've mentioned the example is because people know them. Henya and Jason. I made them into one person there. I said Jenya. By the way, Henya and Jason, I got all kinds of differences from them. We don't agree about everything. But they're vegan, I'm vegan, and I want to cooperate with them. And I know it may sound like a bullshit slogan, but think about the meaning of that, saving the world. If we're actually motivated by saving the world, what do you think? You think I'm going to piss all over Henya and Jason because of some difference we've got or something? I mean, be a human being. Have an open heart and an open mind and try to embrace people and work with people. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you try to cooperate and it doesn't work out and you move on. Be mature, but you're not going to be friends with everybody. But I mean, wow, an attitude of tolerance and cooperation, that's a very rare thing in veganism in 2016, and it shouldn't be. That should be our main value,
Absolutely. I think if you're on the right side of the ethical side, I mean, instead of looking at what's different, look at what's the same here. Because if every vegan was the same, our message would be so weak. And we need the diversity because people are different, so we need different people with different styles. So I think just to not, there's so many different, this whole diet is so new and everyone's still tweaking how it's the best vegan lifestyle, this and that this is going to be a conversation that's going to go on for so long. And people are going to disagree with this until it's the food chart or something. But we need to agree here, that veganism about ethical, saving the planet as a whole.
Well, look, I'll say also, I see it both short-term and long-term. So, my friend Erin Janis, she's a YouTuber, but I mean, on the one hand, there's this view of it where, we're talking about the next 200 years. The goals of veganism, if you look at them in totality, they will not be achieved, minimum 200 years, the goals of veganism. But on the other hand, Erin Janis, she found one zebra and one donkey, and she wanted to save their lives. And that's immediate. That's now. That's this week, So I've got sympathies for both sides of it. I was, yesterday, I'm living in China, and I walked into this noodle restaurant to see if they could make one thing vegan for me. And, they just had this bowl of diced up pork. And I've got to tell you, emotions waved over me, even though it's the most meaningless thing. And I know within this city and within this country, the number of tons of dead pork is, impossible to even imagine. Here's this one little bowl of diced up pork. And it does hurt me. It does move me emotionally. It does matter to me. I mean, there are short-term agonies we go through. Emotionally and intellectually. We care about particular animals, and we care about the fact that each day animals are being slaughtered. There is a short-term sense of urgency, but there's also this sense in which this is a long-term cultural change we're working towards over 200 years.